Have you ever felt like someone's words were pulling your emotional strings, leaving you furious or upset? What if I told you that anger isn't something others give you, it's something you allow to take root inside you? Imagine being completely untouchable by the actions or words of others. Sound impossible? Let me show you how. Welcome. Today we're uncovering a powerful truth. The ability to control our emotions lies within us, not in the actions of others. Anger is a choice, and we have the power to choose peace instead. Stick with me as we explore how to walk through life untouched by negativity. In this video, we'll explore how to transform your mindset with the power of prayer, reflection, and deep faith. We'll dive into the wisdom of Scripture and the lives of saints who mastered emotional control, showing us how we can embody Christ's peace in our daily lives. 1. Understanding anger as a choice. Anger is not something others impose upon us. It is a natural emotional response, but it becomes sinful when we choose to dwell in it and allow it to control us. In Ephesians, Paul advises us to be aware of our emotions, especially anger, and to prevent it from leading to sin. This means acknowledging our anger but not letting it govern our actions or hearts. When we feel anger rising within us, it's a sign to pause, reflect, and choose how we will respond. In early Christianity, anger was recognized as an internal struggle that needed to be managed. The teachings of Christ, especially in the Sermon on the Mount, emphasized the importance of reconciliation, forgiveness, and maintaining peace within ourselves. The Church Fathers often spoke of the need to overcome sinful passions, including anger, through prayer, reflection, and self-discipline. Choosing to let go of anger is an act of surrender to God's will and trust in His providence. When we hold on to anger, we allow it to take root and disturb our inner peace. But when we choose to release it and embrace forgiveness, we allow God's peace to fill the space anger once occupied. Let's consider how this plays out in our lives. When someone insults us or challenges us, it's easy to feel anger bubbling up. But in those moments, we have a choice. We can either let anger control us, or we can respond with calmness, understanding, and prayer. Through prayer, reflection, and calling on God's grace, we can choose peace over anger and release ourselves from the chains that negativity tries to bind us with. By actively choosing peace, we honor the teachings of Christ and align ourselves with His example of self-control and forgiveness, creating an inner peace that nothing from the outside can disturb. 2. The power of perception in emotional control. Anger often arises from the way we perceive a situation or the words of others. We may hear something, and our emotions become triggered, but the reality is that our perception shapes how we respond. In Proverbs, we are reminded, "A person's wisdom yields patience. It is to one's glory to overlook an offense." This verse teaches us that the ability to overlook an offense, to rise above a slight, is not just a matter of being polite. It is an act of wisdom and spiritual maturity. Think about the lives of saints like St. Francis of Assisi or St. Teresa of Avila. Both faced incredible challenges, mockery and rejection, yet they responded with patience and forgiveness, even when the world rejected them. When insults and offenses came their way, they did not let them take root in their hearts. Instead, they chose to view these situations through the lens of God's love, responding with grace and humility. Our perception of an offense determines whether it will take hold in our hearts and stir anger. For instance, if someone criticizes us, our first reaction might be to defend ourselves, to prove them wrong. But if we stop for a moment and reflect, we might realize that their criticism speaks more to their struggles than to our worth. Choosing to see the situation from this perspective frees us from the grip of anger. To practice this, we must intentionally pause before reacting. In those moments when we feel anger rising, we can ask ourselves, what is it that's really bothering me here? Is this an opportunity for growth or a chance to demonstrate patience? By shifting our perception, we stop allowing anger to control us and start allowing peace to reign instead. Choosing peace doesn't mean we ignore the wrongs done to us, but it means we choose not to let those wrongs disturb our inner calm. When we view others and their actions through the eyes of Christ, through the eyes of compassion, we find the strength to overlook offenses and respond with love instead of anger. 3. Recognizing emotional triggers and hidden wounds. Often, the anger we experience is tied to deeper, hidden wounds within ourselves. These emotional triggers can be the result of past hurts, insecurities, or unmet needs. In Matthew 5:23-24, Jesus teaches us the importance of reconciliation, not just with others but also with ourselves. If you are offering your gift at the altar and there remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there in front of the altar. First go and be reconciled to them, then come and offer your gift. This shows us that before we seek peace with others, we must first seek peace within ourselves. In early Christianity, the concept of reconciliation was central. It wasn't just about resolving conflicts with others, it was about healing the wounds within our own hearts that might be causing us to react in anger. Just as the early church placed a strong emphasis on making peace with God and others, we too are called to recognize the emotional scars we carry and bring them to God for healing. When someone says something that triggers us, it's often not just about the words they speak, but about an unhealed part of our soul being touched. Perhaps someone criticizes us, and we feel offended because deep down we fear their judgment is true. Or maybe an insult brings up a past hurt that we haven't fully dealt with. In these moments, it's essential to pause and reflect. What is it about this situation that is affecting me so strongly? What wound is being touched that I haven't healed? Recognizing these emotional triggers is a vital step in mastering our anger. When we identify the root causes of our anger, we can bring them to God in prayer and seek His healing grace. This isn't a one-time fix, but a continuous journey of self-reflection, healing, and growth. Every time we recognize a wound, we have an opportunity to bring it before God and allow Him to transform our hearts. As we allow God to heal these wounds, we will find ourselves less susceptible to being triggered by the actions of others. Instead of reacting with anger, we can respond with understanding and grace, knowing that our true peace comes from the healing and reconciliation that God provides. 4. Transforming anger into compassion and prayer. When we face insults, mockery, or unfair treatment, our natural inclination may be to retaliate, to defend our honor, or to set the record straight. However, Scripture calls us to a higher path. In 1 Peter 2:23 we read, "When they hurled their insults at him, he did not retaliate. When he suffered, he made no threats. Instead, he entrusted himself to him who judges justly." Christ, even in his moment of greatest suffering, chose compassion over anger, love over retaliation. His response was not based on defending himself, but on trusting in God's judgment and mercy. This example of Christ teaches us a profound lesson. Our emotional reactions do not need to be dictated by the offenses others direct at us. Christ showed us that true strength is found not in lashing out or seeking revenge, but in choosing to respond with love, patience, and prayer. His calm in the face of extreme provocation is the ultimate model for us. Think about the times when you've been insulted or wronged. How easy it is to feel the urge to fight back or to assert our own righteousness. Yet by doing so, we give power to the very offense we wish to escape. Instead, we can follow Christ's example by choosing a different path, a path of compassion, where we replace anger with prayer. For instance, when someone insults us, instead of responding with sharp words or an angry retort, we can pause and pray, "Lord, grant me the grace to respond with love. Help me to see this person as you see them and to reflect your peace, even in this difficult moment." This simple act of prayer not only calms our emotions but also shifts our perspective, allowing us to respond from a place of grace rather than defensiveness. By responding in this way, we reflect Christ's love to the world around us. It's not easy, and it requires practice and patience, but with God's strength, we can transform our emotional responses. Every time we choose compassion over anger, we grow stronger in faith, and our hearts become more aligned with Christ's example. This is the power of emotional mastery, choosing to respond with love, no matter how others may treat us. 5. The importance of silence and reflection in emotional mastery. In the rush of life, it's easy to let our emotions lead us. When we're faced with conflict or criticism, our first instinct may be to react immediately, to speak, to defend ourselves, to prove we're right. But in these moments, silence is one of the most powerful tools we have. James chapter 1:19 reminds us, "Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." The act of pausing before responding gives us the space to reflect and allow God's peace to settle over us. The early Christian church placed great emphasis on the discipline of silence. Silence was not merely the absence of sound, but a sacred practice that allowed individuals to connect more deeply with God and to master their emotions. The saints understood that silence was not passive. It was an active choice to focus on God's will rather than the storm of emotions inside us. When we practice silence, we resist the temptation to react impulsively and instead make room for prayer and reflection. When anger begins to rise, it is often in response to something external, a harsh word, an unjust accusation, a difficult situation. But how we respond in those moments is what defines us. If we react impulsively, we allow ourselves to be controlled by the situation. But when we pause in silence, we create space for God's presence and allow His peace to guard our hearts. Next time you feel your emotions building, try to resist the urge to speak immediately. Instead, take a deep breath, close your eyes, and ask God for the grace to respond in peace. In that moment of silence, ask yourself, what would God want me to say? How would He want me to respond? This simple act of pausing before speaking can transform our emotional reactions. By embracing the discipline of silence, we allow God's wisdom to guide us. We create a space where our emotions no longer control us, but where we can choose to respond with love and patience. It's through this silence that we connect with God more deeply and learn to navigate life's challenges with a calm and steadfast heart. 6. Anchoring yourself in your identity as a child of God. One of the most powerful ways to master our emotions and never be bothered by anyone is to anchor ourselves in our identity as children of God. In Jeremiah 1:5, God says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart." These words remind us that our worth and value are not determined by the opinions of others, but by our Creator, who knew us before we even existed. Understanding this truth is the foundation for emotional resilience. Throughout history, the saints embodied this truth. They knew that their identity was rooted in God's love, not in the fleeting judgments of the world. Saints like Saint Ignatius of Loyola and Saint Catherine of Siena faced criticism, rejection, and even persecution, yet they remained steadfast in their faith because they knew who they were in God's eyes. They didn't allow the negativity of others to define their sense of worth or disrupt their inner peace. Their strength came from knowing that they were beloved children of God, called to live out His purpose for them. When we internalize this truth, when we truly believe that our worth is determined by God, not by others, we become unshakable. When someone criticizes us, we can look past their words and remember that their opinion doesn't define us. Instead, we find our validation in God, whose love for us is eternal and unchanging. This understanding allows us to let go of the need for approval from others and find peace in the knowledge that we are loved and valued by God. This doesn't mean we ignore constructive criticism or stop striving to grow. It means that we stop allowing others' opinions to control our emotional state. When we are rooted in our identity as God's children, we can look at criticism or negativity through the lens of grace, knowing that our value is secure in Him. So, when you're faced with criticism or rejection, pause and remind yourself of who you are in Christ. You are loved, you are chosen, and you are enough. By anchoring yourself in your true identity, you free yourself from the emotional grip of others' opinions and begin to respond with calm assurance, Trusting in God's plan for your life. 7. How to use conflict as a path to growth. Life is full of conflicts, misunderstandings, and difficult situations. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that conflict is something to be avoided at all costs. However, in the Christian life, conflict can be an opportunity for growth. In Romans 12:18, we are urged, if it is possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. This doesn't mean that we must avoid all conflict or make ourselves passive in the face of injustice, but it reminds us that we have control over how we respond to conflict. And often, our response can be a chance to deepen our relationship with God. The saints provide us with beautiful examples of using conflict as a path to spiritual growth. St. Thomas More, for example, faced great opposition when he refused to recognize King Henry VIII as the head of the church. Despite being imprisoned and ultimately executed, he responded with grace, calm, and unwavering faith. St. Thérèse of Lisieux, known for her little way, encountered daily conflicts, whether in her convent or with those around her, but she saw them as opportunities to practice patience, humility, and charity. Conflict, when approached with a Christ-centered perspective, can reveal where we need to grow in humility, patience, and faith. Rather than reacting with anger, we can see each conflict as an opportunity to reflect on our responses and invite God into those moments to shape us into His image. Just as Christ remained silent before His accusers and entrusted His fate to God, we are called to respond to conflict with peace and surrender. In your own life, consider the conflicts that arise, whether with family, friends, colleagues, or strangers. Instead of seeing them as obstacles, try to see them as invitations to grow closer to God. Ask yourself, what can this situation teach me? How can I respond in a way that reflects Christ's love and peace? By doing so, you will not only avoid being swept away by anger, but also become more spiritually mature. Remember, peace doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It comes from learning how to navigate it with faith, humility, and the peace of Christ in our hearts. Each conflict is an opportunity to practice forgiveness, patience, and trust in God's timing, knowing that He uses these moments to refine us. 8. The role of compassion in emotional resilience. One of the most profound ways to build emotional resilience and ensure we are not bothered by anyone is through compassion. It's easy to become angry or upset when others treat us poorly, but Christ calls us to a higher standard. In Matthew 5:44, He says, "But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you." This radical command challenges us to respond to negativity not with anger, but with love and understanding. Throughout the lives of the saints, we see countless examples of this kind of compassion. St. Stephen, the first Christian martyr, was stoned to death for his faith, yet in his final moments he prayed, "Lord, do not hold this sin against them." His ability to respond with love, even in the face of death, was a powerful testimony to the grace of God working in his life. Similarly, St. Maria Goretti forgave her attacker, and her example of forgiveness continues to inspire many today. These saints understood that true emotional freedom comes not from holding on to anger, but from offering compassion and mercy, even when it seems undeserved. Compassion has the unique power to break the cycle of anger. When we choose to respond with empathy, we not only heal ourselves but also create an opportunity for the other person to encounter God's grace. Often, those who hurt others are struggling with their own pain, insecurities, or wounds. When we respond with love instead of retaliation, we help to break down their walls and soften their hearts. In our own lives, we can begin to cultivate this kind of compassion by seeking to understand the pain behind others' actions. When we're criticized or mistreated, we can pause and ask, what is causing this person to act this way? What hurt are they carrying that is causing them to lash out? This perspective shifts our focus from our own offense to a more loving, Christ-centered approach. Instead of being provoked, we can be the ones who offer peace, recognizing that our response can help heal the wounds of others. Choosing compassion doesn't mean we ignore wrongs or become passive in the face of injustice. It means that we rise above our natural impulses and respond with the same love and mercy that Christ showed us. When we do this, we not only protect our peace, but also become vessels of God's grace, transforming difficult situations into opportunities for growth and reconciliation. Conclusion. As we conclude this journey, it's important to reflect on the powerful truth we've explored. Anger is a choice, and with God's grace, we have the ability to choose peace instead. Over the past scenes, we've learned that by embracing silence, practicing compassion, and grounding ourselves in our identity as children of God, we can transform how we respond to the challenges life throws at us. We no longer need to be controlled by external circumstances or by the actions of others. We are called to reflect Christ's love and peace in every situation, no matter how difficult it may seem. By choosing peace, we free ourselves from the burdens of anger and resentment, allowing God's grace to fill our hearts and minds. Remember the wisdom of the saints who were able to endure rejection, hardship, and even martyrdom with calm and grace. They knew that true strength lies not in defending ourselves, but in trusting God to handle our battles for us. Their example challenges us to respond to every provocation with patience, love, and prayer. Now take a moment to reflect on your own life. Think about the times when anger has taken hold of you. Did those moments bring you peace? Or did they steal your joy and energy? True strength comes not from the ability to lash out, but from the power to remain calm, anchored in God's love. With every choice to respond with grace, we grow closer to Him and become more like Christ. So how will you respond the next time anger rises within you? Will you choose to surrender your peace, or will you choose to reflect God's love and stand firm in His grace? I encourage you to make this choice each day, to pause, pray, and let God's peace reign in your heart. Let's continue this conversation. I would love to hear how you've managed moments when others provoked you. What practical steps have you taken to cultivate peace and emotional resilience? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to like and share this video with others who could benefit from this message. Together, let's walk this path of emotional mastery, guided by God's love. Remember, emotional mastery is not a one-time act, it's a lifelong journey. With God's help, we can learn to live each day with His peace in our hearts, unshaken by the storms around us.